G'day everyone, welcome back to Zero Access Footy, episode number 7. We've got a fantastic weekend to have a look at in terms of footy, and we'll start off on the Thursday matchup. But for me, it gets better and better as the week goes on in many different ways, both from enticing results to unexpected upsets. And so we're going to start off with, to me, what ended up being the most boring game of the week, which I really wished it didn't because it could have been really good, except for the one thing we'll talk about. Brisbane versus Collingwood. This one really lost all its excitement after the late Dacos out.
Disappointing.
Very, very late Dacos out, but it clearly shows how much of a massive piece he is to the team. What do you think about the performance? Are there any kind of worries for Collingwood that you think of when it comes to Dacos being out, or is this just a one-off?
It's an interesting thing for them to be taking him up to Brisbane when they pretty much know he was training at max 70% the entire week. I thought that was very interesting to only take him out half an hour before the game. I dare say they would have expected it, but to then keep him all the way through, felt like they were trying to almost blindside Brisbane, and Brisbane never fell for it, really. I don't think it was ever really too close, or Brisbane were ever too concerned about the game anyway. Like, there was just, as you said, it was just a nothing game. Like, I don't know what to take out of this other than the fact that we know Brisbane can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had the idea that Brisbane were going to win this. It was up at the Gabba. Although Collingwood's good, Brisbane would manage to take the game, but it became more of a matter of how much rather than if it happened once Dacos was out. And so for a lot of people who were coming into that game, they were thinking Brisbane anyway, so it didn't affect the tipping too much. However, that being said, we're still doing the ESPN Footy Tips competition as well. So if we want to go ahead and show the leaderboard after round number 4, of course, as I said, a lot of people ended up picking that Brisbane anyways. But this is what we've got. A lot of 6s up there. There's even a 4 in there. So a little bit of a drop-off for some. But we've got Lachlan still sitting up there at 5. Is that you? You've mentioned that that's your cousin at 2.
Yes.
6 this week. Very
Indeed.
nice.
Doing very well. Got a very good margin.
For a total of 26. Abdul with 26 as well. And 6. Footy Pirate. That's the first time I think I've seen Footy Pirate in the top 5.
It is.
With 6 as well. And then Bont from Brownlow with the 4. Very much a fall off, even though Bont certainly hasn't. Bont is certainly up there, and he's my pick for the Brownlow at the moment. I'm really happy because I picked him from the get-go. But either way,
Mazel tov.
either way, we're still looking pretty good this year for our tips. So congratulations to those 5, and keep on tipping, guys. Keep it up. I'm slowly making my way up there. I just wanted to point that out, so I can see my own name.
I'm grinding away at this. Yeah.
I'm slowly but surely making my way up.
I would have been
way.
top 15 had Geelong have won, but we'll get to that in a
I'm
few
top
minutes.
15 because Hawthorn won. Either way, we'll talk about that further in depth. But for anyone that's been paying attention, it's not that surprising that Brisbane ended up getting their season back on track. It was a few unlucky performances, but the depth goes wild with Brisbane. And so even the fact that they had injuries still had many people thinking Brisbane are going to take this one.
Good Friday kicked off between North and Carlton in a game that many saw as interesting to see where these two teams sat.
Yeah.
And we sort of got a really good look at one and the same look at another.
Yeah, I mean, this was, it wasn't game of the round, and God, it's so annoying that it wasn't. But, I mean, it feels like finally the Superclash got a game, if that makes sense. Superclash hasn't had, you could argue Josh Bruce's 10 back in the day, but that wasn't great. The only good thing about that was there was a lot of money donated that night.
Yes.
But North versus Carlton, in terms of a competitive game, it gave it to us in spades.
100%.
I'm so happy it did.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the right end of it, even though we very much could have not been on the right end of it as a North Melbourne fan myself. Basically, what I'm saying is I've seen enough. It's Flag Rouge 26. It's happening this year. I reckon just cruising through next week. If we beat Brisbane next week, this will not just be.
Have you guys played a team outside the bottom 6?
Outside the bottom 6, we've played Port, Carlton, West Coast. They're 12th. They're just outside, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Outside the bottom 7.
All right, whatever. Either way, obviously the competition they played so far hasn't been great, but they've got to win the games.
Port are 8th.
Oh, hell yeah. Nice.
Yeah, damn. They also haven't played anyone outside the bottom 10.
Yeah, that is true. The fixturing is very strange this year. Either way, they've done what they've needed to do for the most part. Of course, looking back at it, they'll wish that they had held on to that West Coast game, but at West Coast, against a really, really inspired side, look, it's a different game, but North are 3-1 now after this one, and they did it in a way that North doesn't really do. They came back into the game really, really strong and not just played to keep the game once they took the lead off of Sheasel's boot, but continued to play on. And that's what I really liked about it. The defense was so strong in that final quarter. They didn't just play to keep themselves in front. That late sealer where Curtis basically jumped over the defender to get that ball. I couldn't believe that.
I thought
mark.
he was going to knock him out with his foot.
I couldn't believe
Straight up did a
that
karate
mark.
kick in midair.
Yeah, I mean, on that same note, unfortunately for Carlton, Jacob Wiedering is going to be out for a fair bit, which is for a week
Adelaide
or two.
to play Adelaide.
Yeah, it's just an awful scenario for Carlton. And it makes me think, because this is a segment that I want to kind of get into. It's going to be our little talk for this one. What does Carlton do here? Because the talk feels more inevitability than it does a question mark as to what Michael Voss's future at Carlton looks like. This has been like a many-time discussion on this podcast before. And at this point, I just feel bad for the bloke. I really do. I'm sitting and watching all the discussion. I'm going, like, tactically you can talk about being spanked, but at the same time, the effort and the stupid decisions, Will Heywood's decisions, despite whether they're reportable or not, were just dumb. Yep. They were just dumb. And there were lots of things in that game that were really dumb. And I'm sure Carlton fans are sick of the sloppy skills as the game gets closer to the finish line. There's so much that you could talk about on the field, but it feels like it's all just being piled on top of Michael Voss at the moment, who, I mean, I still think he needs to get up into the box. I've heard a lot of discussion on that.
We talked about this last week.
Yep.
The big thing is he's not a tactical coach, right?
Yeah.
He's never been known as this tactical genius. So I understand him sitting down on the bench. But if you know that the people around you are also tactically inept, it is on you to step up. And I think that's the thing we didn't talk about last week, is whilst, yes, it is not your role, it should be. Like, you are the coach. It is your job to be the tactical master behind your team's game plan.
Yeah.
So when you are sitting on the bench and it once again happens the same way and you're still trying to get that connection piece to the players, maybe it's better off saying, okay, that's failed. What else can I do now? Can I send someone else down there who can potentially do that? And I can be up on the bench. I can be watching. I can be seeing what's going wrong. Where's it going wrong? How can we fix it? Because that's the biggest thing. When you're sitting ground level, you can't say, you can't see the ground. You can't see, oh, there's a specific player here who's pushing up really high, because you don't have that bird's eye view. So when he's there, he's talking to the players, he's only getting that connection piece. He's not getting the idea that the game plan is failing. I
think it's also an idea of he's getting caught up in the atmosphere with everyone else in the stadium. In the box, you can kind of separate yourself, I'd imagine, from that. Maybe that's a bit of a like really, really basic way of looking at it. And I may not know. I mean, I definitely don't know what the experience is like up in a box, but you'd think with how isolated it is from everyone else, you're with your coaching staff, you're all locked in, and with that view, if the game was getting out of hand, you'd at least have the personnel around you to put yourself in the moment and ground you in, okay, how are we going to prevent this happening tactically? Of course, it's all up to them in terms of effort and how they play, but if we can at least give them the opportunity to, from the box, tell them, hey, we need this person back here getting extra numbers out the back, and we need to find that way to get an extra kick out, slow things down, play our way, get down the middle, get another goal on the board. Because early on, that's what Carlton was doing, right? The momentum that North were trying to build was getting stifled pretty quickly early on in that fourth quarter. Carlton would find a way to put a goal on the board and keep the lead at about 20, but North just kept coming with the offense. And again, as a North fan, I'm really happy about that. But as a Carlton fan, you're thinking, like, why has the momentum shifted this hard yet again? Because now it's not just... It's the same idea when you think of the Kennett curse, because it's become a mental problem for these guys now. When the fourth quarter starts and they have a lead, unless it's 60 points...
I mean, Sheasel said on radio the North players were so confident heading into three-quarter time to come back. And it happened. The way I look at it is I have no doubt Voss will be sacked. by the end of the year.
You know what? It's unfortunate.
It feels like more of a when, not if situation now. But also, it is still 75-80% fault on the players because they're the ones not executing.
Yeah.
It is, once again, the players' fault. They still cannot make a decision when under pressure.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and it's become a trend too.
Yeah.
The more I talk and the more I listen to people in the know, they understand that the game is full of mistakes. Every team is going to make a mistake. That's just the way Aussie rules footy is played. But it's when the mistakes become regular. That's when you know where your problems are. And this isn't just a problem. This is something that will fester within the club. And unfortunately, it's just created the downfall for Michael Voss. Yeah. And I say it's a shame because he took them to a prelim, a team that struggled for so long to find themselves joy. He took them to a prelim and a fantastic start in that prelim, by the way. Unfortunately, the rest of the game went the way it did and Brisbane made it. But you just think, where could Carlton have gone if everything played into Vossi's hands, into the team's hands at the best times? It's a really unfortunate scenario because, agreed. At this point, it feels inevitable that he's going to be gone.
From one team who has really struggled in the last quarter to another team that has been able to get the lead in 2 last quarters but still not been able to get over the line. Yeah. I'm talking about Adelaide. Once again, the lead in the 4th quarter and they still cannot hold on. What are the issues?
So, I mean, for everyone who's been paying attention to Adelaide this season, they know that their game plan has been really, it's just been the antithesis of what the footy has looked like this season. You look at teams like Melbourne who have managed to, at some point, push the game onto their terms. It's because they're playing with this new pace. They're playing within the new rules and the new ways of freeing up the ground to the point that their pressure game and their intensity is at a high as often as they possibly can. Adelaide feel like the opposite. They feel like they want to control the game on their hands and take the pressure out.
Yeah.
The problem is now, if your skills aren't good enough, and oftentimes that's a lot of the time because it's very hard to be accurate 100% of the time, like Adelaide would hope their game plan would have in order to get them where they want to, it's just a case where they're caught behind. They're caught behind the pack now. The way they want to play is down the lines, slow football, utilising their big guns through the rucks, whether it's McAndrew or Rob, and then you talk about Tex, Fogarty, Thilthorpe, all those guys. They want to bring them to the pack and then use them as their forwards if they're not up in that initial pack. So where does the change come from? Who is the change? Who is going to make the change at the club? Because we've talked before about how Adelaide's midfield has looked one of the worst on paper and struggled to get over the top of other midfields. They need to make a step. They need to change up and utilise Dawson, utilise Rochelle, utilise Rankin, utilise those quick guys who can take risks and use their fantastic ability, fantastic skill to start running through the middle, to start using that forward handball game that we're seeing more and more with these really good teams where they break down defenses just by playing quick and going through the middle. It's weird because you talk about teams like Geelong back in 2007, and this is a really long time ago, but 2007, they broke the game wide open. Instead of playing that slow football, that really scrappy football that teams were known for at the time, Geelong decided, all right, any chance we get, we're going to go through the middle and we're going to go through as quickly as we possibly can in order to devastate them with a forward kick right down the middle with all these options. Exactly right. We're seeing a bit of a revitalised game style like that. Almost based purely off the way the game is played. With
more the
zoning defense and stuff like that. Adelaide have to find a way to, at this point, catch up with the pack. I don't know how they're going to reinvent themselves, if they can reinvent themselves.
It's tough because we were very critical of them in the offseason in terms of their recruiting just simply wasn't of a team that looked like they were trying to win a premiership this year.
Yeah.
It was, they bulked at the price that they didn't want to pay Petrarca. They didn't want to go after Merritt in the end, even though the offer was still there. They could have gone at Essendon saying, okay, we will give you these first-round picks because we still have access to all of ours. And we've got a couple younger players that aren't necessarily breaking through, like a Zach Taylor or a Brandon, whatever it was. They go after Archie. He's now got a hamstring injury, and that's nothing new. He's had continuous soft tissue problems. The biggest thing is their midfield obviously has issues. But you've still got someone like Jordan Dawson, who hasn't been at his absolute best, but is still a very good talented player. You got Isaac Rankin coming back, so he'll take a couple of weeks to obviously get back into his form. And then Josh Rochelle, right? He's the big player, the big off-season jumper or bolter that they wanted to have really burst through. He still doesn't understand midfield craft because he never trained as a midfielder. So there's going to be growing pains. But continuously their ball movement lacks, regardless of what's happening. They went in this game with 5 tall players forward of the ball or in the ruck. Yeah. They went with McAndrew and O'Brien in the ruck, which simply doesn't work. And Riley O'Brien should never play AFL football ever again. He still cannot kick the ball more than 5 meters.
Yeah, there's a few rough moments from him.
Then you have Tex, Thulthorpe, and Finbar Maley.
You're always with the O.
I don't know where it comes from.
I love Finbar, though. I love him still.
So what is this team selection?
Yeah.
It continuously confuses me. And I've been very critical of Matthew Nicks. And once again, he's proving me right. I think a coach who is more in tune with the way this game is going would be able to get more out of this team. And he continues to lack. They've had 4 very close games. They were obviously able to beat Collingwood in Collingwood, but they now had 3 losses by under 10 points. They were in the lead against the Bulldogs, had 2 goals late. They were in the lead against Geelong, had 3 goals late. They were in the lead against the Dockers, had 2 goals late. It's 3 straight weeks of having the lead in the fourth quarter and blowing it.
Yeah. It's a problem with trends. It's a trends thing. But give you credit to Fremantle. I think
they were phenomenal.
They got off to a fantastic. They got off to a flyer, which of course Adelaide allowed to happen. But Fremantle, a lot of credit to them. Still so many exciting stories. You can see Tracy's, Luke Jackson, Sean Darcy's even trying to keep up with all of that. He's still sticking in there. And your midfielders, Sarong and Brayshaw, still doing their thing.
Yeah.
A bit of a quicker one here. Richmond versus Port Adelaide.
Really don't need to talk too much.
Yeah, it's a Port Adelaide 2-2 now. Still disappointing, but at least they're still on track for something. There's a bit of positivity to get out of that. For Richmond, it's just now I've noticed a lot more people putting their eyes on Adam Uze because his record so far to start has been really poor.
The way I look at Richmond is David King, sorry, not Adam Kingsley. David King was very confident in Richmond having all the Ferraris. By the looks of things, they're more the F1 Ferrari than the sports car Ferrari.
Little motorsport reference for all those ones.
Yeah, some ball knowledge. And then for
it's literally not ball knowledge. It's wheel knowledge. Or car not, whatever. Port
Adelaide still kind of suck. They will probably finish 12th or 13th this year.
Yeah, I don't see them getting too high.
No.
West Coast versus Sydney.
Isaac Heaney's really good.
Yeah, there's that.
A bit of a wake-up call for West Coast.
He very much feels like the piece for them. He is the one. You think of your Errol Gouldens and your Chad Warners, how good they are. But he is the guy who's going to make or break Sydney.
He's the chosen
when he plays, he makes them a different team. Gives him so much life. But yeah, if there's such thing as celebrating a win too much, which personally I don't think there is. If you're a team like West Coast, celebrate your wins because you haven't had many for very long. But for West Coast, if there's such thing as winning or celebrating it too much, then this is probably the best example we've ever gotten of it.
Yeah.
I did not see 128-point loss on the cards for West Coast this week after how good it's looked.
I definitely didn't tip Sydney to win by 105 plus with West Coast only scoring 31.
Was that your tip?
No.
Yeah,
I tipped Sydney by 31 with both teams scoring 105 plus.
Oh, that's nuts. I couldn't remember for certain, but that is a crazy tip.
Well, I failed big time.
Melbourne versus Gold Coast. How crazy was this?
Yeah.
Gold Coast, I've been saying Q-Clash Grand Final since the start of the year, since they've been looking that good. And, of course, some injuries make it a bit tough. No Petrarca, which would have been a really, really nice story if he was here to play this one. But no Petrarca. The leaders of Gold Coast really went missing in this one. I think the only one who probably you could argue didn't was Ben King. He did his thing for the most part when given the opportunity. Again, we know his role isn't to be that much of an up-ground player.
Mm-hmm.
He does his thing in the forward line and does it very, very well. But Melbourne's ceiling is way higher than I think we ever expected them to be. Way, way higher. And it's all, I think Stephen King, this is the opposite scenario where I think Stephen King is the main reason this is happening. You know, I didn't give Vossi that much criticism this week against North because the trend is they're giving up fourth quarters. It's not like it's a massive game plan problem. It's just the momentum. They just love to find a way to crumble under the pressure. This feels so much like a game plan that has utilized the new rule system and has turned players who couldn't get an opportunity I mean, the first thing I think of, Jai Culley isn't playing the biggest role in this team, but he's playing his role the right way. He understands what he's doing. He came from West Coast. He came from the bad West Coast, and he's making a Melbourne team look like a finals contender now. He's part of that.
Don't go that far.
I don't know.
Don't go
10th
that far.
10th place is finals.
They will do this a fair bit throughout the year. They'll not be good, and then they'll be really good, because that's just what they're going to be. They're going to be a team who's going to be defensively very weak. They'll still let 85, 90-plus points scored every week against them.
And that's the last thing I wanted to point out. I'll let you keep going after this. But Melbourne love to put on pressure. I've seen it very simply. If you are clean and you can hit targets, you will beat Melbourne.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. But the pressure, you've got to do it with pressure, because that's what Melbourne are trying to define themselves with.
Yeah. From the first quarter, like Gold Coast were able to be clean. They were able to get good transition going, and they were able to find targets inside 50. Ben King obviously being the big result of that. I think he kicked 3 goals, 1 in the end, but 3 of those shots were in the first quarter. And then post that, they just completely capitulated. I saw this more as a Gold Coast capitulation than a Melbourne being so impressive in this win. They were still impressive, but I look at this more of a Gold Coast still not being that top 4 guaranteed team that many thought they were or could be. I think, especially with some of their, like Matt Rowell had a horrible game in his first game back. Jared Witt's got absolutely manhandled by Gawn. And Jack Steele has been a phenomenal pickup and really sort of took it to Rowell, and he wasn't able to go with him in his first game back. And I just think there's still a lot that can go wrong for Melbourne. Like if Max Gawn gets injured for even 3 weeks, they're losing all 3 of those games. Like immediately. If Jake Lever goes down, I still think down back they are so weak. Even though Daniel Turner was pretty good on Ben King, I still thought there were a few things that Gold Coast just need to tweak. And I still think they're very, very young. That's the thing with, like, you look at Jake Rogers, extremely inexperienced. Leah Lombard, extremely inexperienced. Goulburn, who looked pretty good in his first game, extremely inexperienced. Jed Walder, Ethan Reid. They're 3 tools. I'm sorry. If I am Damien Hardwick and I'm seeing 3 tools in this lineup again, I'm crashing out. They cannot win together. And if I'm Damien Hardwick and I'm selecting these 3 tools, I'm booking them in for a loss again. I will change my tip regardless of who they play, because they cannot get it done. For whatever reason, they could all have 4 goals and they will still lose. This 3-pronged forward attack simply doesn't work. So when you see that and then you go and recruit Jamal Ugle-Hagan, sure, it's all well and good that he's going to be a potential recruit of the year, but the 3-pronged tools don't work. You are much better off with a Jai Farah or a Nick Holman as that sort of 4th tool, and then you promote Ben Long. Ben Long cannot do anything when he is the 4th option. He is a much better 3rd option in this forward line structure. Because you have Ben King, who is a very agile player and can get around the ground, and Ethan Reid is one of the quickest and most agile 2-meter player ever. He's insanely athletic. You can get away with it. But when you've got that 3, it takes so much away from them elsewhere, and I will be very pissed off for the 13 Suns fans that were at the game on the weekend.
The Gold Coast cheer squad has been copping it relentlessly this year from the Zero Access Footy podcast. But, I mean, yeah, this was very much a slip-up, and it does put into question whether they're ready for the big time, of course. It feels strange still talking about them like they are the world beaters, when realistically they're coming off their first final series. There's going to be those ironing things, and you just hope that this is a 1-week problem. And just the step-ups were from players you just didn't expect too. Yeah, you mentioned Goulburn. Goulburn was fantastic. Yeah. I think he did really, really well.
And shout out to Tom Sparrow as well from the D's. Yeah. Thought he had a very good game.
Yeah, lots of positives, but also some pretty outlying negatives in that one. Move on to Western Bulldogs versus Essendon. This is one that looked to be disastrous on paper, but I mean, you give your credit to Essendon at the very least. They made it look exciting. They really, really made Dogs fans. My mum's a Dogs fan, and she's like, "Oh my God, they're doing it. They're going to lose to the Dogs." And she was genuinely stressed in that third, but the Dogs didn't have to hold off and win by 34. How many people you reckon had Dogs by 34 and not 134?
I'd say 80% would have had them by 134 more than 34.
With the way both sides were trending, you'd think that would be the case. But as is what seems to be happening more and more often, these games that you expect to be big blowouts end up being a lot less of a blowout than you think, only because one side goes, all right, let's chill out for a bit. The Dogs, on the other hand, I don't think it was them chilling out. I think it was them randomly getting injured.
They ran out of
English was hurt and visibly hurt in the third.
Came back on,
Ed
though,
Richards,
at
came back
times.
on. Ed Richards went out before the game started with a bit of
Lockie-
hamstring soreness, I think
It was like a bubble around the knee or something.
Same
like
as
an
Darcy
issue.
Moore, was it?
I don't know specifically,
Yeah.
but like Lockie McNeil, who came in for him, had played 3/4 in the VFL beforehand.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was interesting. They had Artie Jones do a 2 to 3 week hamstring injury,
Which is
after missing
annoying
time
because
last
that's
week.
what's been hampering him for ages, and he looked so good.
Fun fact: his first 10 disposals, all score involvements.
Yep, I remember hearing that on the broadcast. That was a great little statistic, and it shows that they've got some surprising depth.
Yep.
Like, you always think that these guys have a lot to work with. No Libber as well, I may mention.
Yeah.
They've got lots of depth to work with, but then a player like Artie Jones pops up, and you're like, what the hell? When did you come around? But Artie Jones has been there for a bit, and he was fantastic to watch. As was a lot of the Dogs in that first half. It did get very boring toward the end of the first, but the Bombers, they showed fight. The first bit of
They showed a half a fight.
First bit of proper fight, because technically you could say they nearly came back and beat North, but that was within the last 5 minutes. You'd much rather a team put a lot more than 5 minutes of fight in.
Still down by 54 at halftime.
Yeah.
So I'm not going that far in Essendon to say that they might win next week.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of what I wanted to bring up. When does their next win come? Because now
them
the
and
streak is
Richmond.
getting to uncharted territories. I believe they have just tied, or they have just beaten their longest streak of losing. Next week is Melbourne.
So they got Melbourne in Adelaide for gather round, which is a really weird clash.
But that's gather round,
Then they got Gold Coast up there.
which I don't think is happening.
Then they got Collingwood for Anzac Day.
Crazy things have happened on Anzac Day.
Wouldn't tip them to win.
I wouldn't, but yeah,
Then they got Brisbane.
that should be a loss.
Then they got GWS up at NG.
That's my thinking. However,
Plausible.
NG doesn't help.
No. Then they have Fremantle.
I just don't see that happening.
No. And then they got Richmond for the Dreamtime clash at the G on the 22nd of May.
Which I think we have discussed before is possibly the worst ever dream time coming up on that one.
Yes.
Yeah. I think their most likely win before the Dreamtime clash is GWS. I'm thinking maybe Melbourne could be the one, considering
They
how
could
they're
beat
still
Melbourne.
they still
Yes.
are very up and down, but I
Yeah.
just don't see that being
No.
the one with how they've been playing as of recent.
No.
I think it's going to be the GWS match if they are to ping one before round 11, and yeah, that would mean that both sides presumably are coming into that game 0-10.
If they don't win that game up until the Dreamtime, it would be they played them on the 22nd of May. Their last win was last year, May 23rd.
Jesus.
Also the Dreamtime game.
Oh my God. Wow.
It would be a full year, theoretically.
Well, let's move away from the poor and let's go to
The rich.
one of the best games we've seen in a long, long time. Hawthorn versus Geelong. We all know that an Easter Monday clash does go hard, but this went bonkers. This was unbelievable. The fact that the game stayed within a single-digit margin for 95% of it. That was a statistic I was told.
I saw that as well.
That is a really, really nice statistic because it just shows the intensity was there for the entire game. How does this one rank for all-time Geelong-Hawthorn matchups? Because for me, it's still the Tom Hawkins goal against Hawthorn. Dennis Cometti is the
might
soundtrack.
be a second.
Could be a
be a
second.
very close second.
Yeah. This one, I mean, if you want competitiveness, this is the game you tune into.
Quite literally, because I didn't watch that one with Hawkins, and I haven't even watched it back yet. But this one was just such an awesome game to watch. Do you want to know what your tip was?
What was my tip?
Hawthorn by 1 point.
Oh, I got it spot on. Yes. That's the second time I've done it this year. That's the second time. Let's go. Oh, man, that's really, I'm very happy with that. I think it was a lot of hoping that, it was just a close game.
I'm just like, I'm watching this. I tipped Geelong by 2 goals. 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They're up by 14. I'm like, perfect. I'm going to get a tip right in a good game. I'm going to watch Hawthorn lose, which is even better, even though I don't like Geelong. And then I see, 30 seconds later, it's a 1 point game.
Yep. It happened so quickly too. It just felt wild. The entire fourth quarter, it was so wild. I was very happy to watch that. It was,
and it's just like, It was drama. I think there's a new movie coming out with Zendaya and the guy from the Batman and the Twilight series,
I can't
Robert
remember.
Pattinson.
Yeah.
I think their new movie is called The Drama. This is like this. It was just full on drama. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
It's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
I'm a big movie man.
Yeah, I know you are, but
Marvel
it's just a
movies.
very interesting way of saying, it's like Robert Pattinson, man. Hey, you do you, man. You do you. But look, just hoping for the sake of the rest of the year, we can get more games like that. Really,
if we could get,
I don't even want to criticize either side.
What could we criticize?
I don't want to.
As a neutral, this was the perfect
Geelong
game.
didn't hold off Hawthorn. You could say that, but like,
I'm not
they're
gonna
both
complain.
just really, really good sides, and it was a battle that you're going to be talking about at the end of the season,
Agreed.
the game of the year. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the second. Was it the second? It's because Behmy's TT gets the best, but this is the second best segment of the podcast. We got Macca's Man and Donkey of the Week in an alternate universe. This was me.
Skin's cleared up.
What does that mean?
Teeth have cleared up.
Yeah, the teeth looking. I'm going full Tony Jones chompers in that one. That's a good one. That's a good one. All right,
for those listening on Spotify, you can take a look at the screen and you'll find a very amusing.
Yeah, for people who are audio listeners, you pick up the phone, mate. It's time to have a look.
Chase,
because it's good stuff. We've got Man of the Week. Vote one. One vote is going to Isaac Heaney just because it was his first game back.
Yeah,
not a very crazy, meaningful game, but at the same time, he just showed why Sydney is so much more dangerous with him on the field. So I gave him one, even though it was not a very meaningful game. 2 votes I gave to Caleb Sarong in a really, really good matchup between Adelaide and Fremantle. He stood up strong. I don't believe they tagged him, but at the same time, we all know he has a really high ceiling, and you just hope he can keep putting up performances like that more often because, we've talked before about his tags, that when he gets tagged, he can struggle occasionally. But, in this one, no signs of struggle. He was all over it. And then 3 votes. I had to do it again. I couldn't believe I was doing it again. Max Gawn. I have to. I was looking elsewhere. I'm like, it's more team performances. Hell, you could even say that for Melbourne in a sense. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, Max just feels a step above at the moment. We were talking about where like certain ruck positions were. And I think we had even mentioned at some point that someone was going to surpass Gawn this season.
It felt
no
like the
signs
year.
of it. No signs of
year.
it. No, not at all. Max Gawn, 3 votes for me. Just again, a fantastic performance against Jared Witts. Jared Witts has been averaging the most hitouts for the season by a long shot this year.
Got dominated.
But he got punched in the mouth in this one.
I think he got a bit
Max
more than
is
that.
just the outright best ruckman right now.
Yes.
And this game proved it once again. Still impactful, still huge at every opportunity. And it just feels like every single time Max is about to get involved in the play, he's going to make something happen.
I now really want to know who the donkey of the week is, if there is one this week.
Donkey of the week. Macca's donkey of the week is Caroline Wilson. A bit of a...
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... Look, going for media members is always a bit rough because like that's kind of...
It's our job.
Cheap as well. They put themselves out there for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And oftentimes pointing out some takes, like others will do to us occasionally, which is completely fair. When you point out other media members, it's kind of like, I find it cheap occasionally, like a cheap shot. They didn't have a take I liked. So what? But this felt strange. Caroline Wilson, for 2 separate reasons. One was a go at Zach Merritt's wife for a TikTok.
Oh.
Which was strange. But
I saw that one too.
Yeah. So Zach Merritt's wife had posted a TikTok saying when your husband's being beaten by 50 points, so you go out to get a drink.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
When you go to some
fancy
fancy
restaurant. And Caro had a go at that on Agenda Setters.
That's
I'm like,
hilarious. Did she have a go at Toby Pink's wife?
I don't know.
Because that one was 10 times worse.
Yeah, but
I can promise you that, Mr.
I don't imagine that they have a segment on Agenda Centers called TikTok Watchers or TikTok Watch, something like that.
Someone's got mediocre. I think that might be Campbell Brown though. Could
It's
be wrong.
really strange. And the other one was the more. It didn't get as much media attention, or it did for certain people, but. Alistair Clarkson having a go at Colton McKercher at three-quarter time. When I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty rough. I haven't seen that in a good while. But both sides were pretty clear afterwards. And, of course, it may just be facing to the media. But Colby seemed fine. They hugged it out after the game. They knew they'd talk about it. And Colby's a man.
I found it kind of funny that Colby was like, yeah, I was expecting it. Like it's just something like...
He's expecting to get whacked up.
Well, yeah, I think it was like a forward stoppage that he let his man go free.
Yeah,
and I think
it was Jagger Smith. It was Jagger Smith
they kicked
who
a goal
kicked it.
from it. And he was just like, oh, yeah, three-quarter time, I was expecting Clark. I could see him raising. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get it here.
Yeah.
And then he got it.
And he got a hit. So, yeah, I mean, a bit old school. I think a lot of people around it were saying that it's good to at least see that this stuff is still in the game in some occasion.
More of
in a bit more of a relaxed way. It's not absolutely abusing the bloke. And you could argue that just giving him a punch is abuse, but they both seemed okay with it.
It's passion.
Exactly
That's
right.
what it is. I want to see more.
I think North fans were happy to see at least that North responded in that third, offer stuff like that from Clarko. Because sure, the physical act is something you look at, but you'd imagine that type of aggression was being given to all the blokes in that three-quarter time talk because they were beaten pretty comfortably in the third quarter.
Kingsley does for a living. Could you
Threatened
imagine?
Craig on the sideline.
Could you imagine if Michael Voss did what he did to that criminal in the car that he like a couple of years ago to one of his plays at three-quarter time?
That is a
He
real...
just goes up to Sam Walsh, bang, gone. Could you imagine?
That would be wild.
I'd be loving that shit. That's just pure entertainment for us.
But yeah, Caro had a go at Alistair Clarkson for that, and it just reminded me of do you remember the meme where it was like two consenting adults, but God hasn't consented, so it's not allowed? It's like a meme. Hold on, I'll try and show the photo for you. I don't know. I don't know if producer. It's I consent meme. That sounds really wild out of context.
That is absolutely pause. Mega pause.
Here we go. The myth of consensual decorations. I consent. I consent. I don't. Is there somebody you forgot to ask? Have a look at that. It's two consenting adults.
I've never seen that before.
It's two blokes who are completely fine with the action going ahead, but the unrelated person is saying that's not okay. Is basically the point I was making. So, it's very strange that Caroline Wilson's journalism now has turned into TikTok watch or moment watch. I don't know. It just felt really nitpicky, and so that's why I gave it Donkey of the Week.
Fair enough.
Very, very strange is how it felt.
I do think it's now.
And also, I know you don't like Caroline Wilson for what she did last year.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah.
I do think now we need to watch more wife TikToks because there are some really good stories coming from them.
Yeah.
Toby Pink's wife put it really on the main page. That is the number one moment from the week.
News segment.
That is the number one moment for the year.
I was about to do Wag Watch.
Yes. Can we go through everyone? Just follow them all. We have to do.
We'll bring someone in just to go watching TikToks.
Casey Battle every week from me.
do Wag Watch.
It's okay, it's time to move on. Behmy's TT. There's a few this week. A couple that haven't been penalised. A couple that have. Samson Ryan got a 1-week suspension for a body blow. Being graded as intentional contact, medium impact, and body contact. This is the sort of new rule that they implemented where any sort of whack to the gut is now 1 week. No issues with this one. Bloke was dog shit anyway. Richmond aren't going to be suffering. Angus Sheldrick, a 1-week suspension, which was really strange, for essentially a arm extension that was aimed sort of more at the body but did get highly read high, was graded as intentional conduct, low impact, high contact. 1 week. I think this could very easily have been graded as medium impact and given a couple extra weeks because the action isn't great, but I think there is an element of, because it's targeting the lower body and highly read, once again lowering himself because it's now the second straight week that he's done, second out of 3 weeks where he's lowered himself and gotten into trouble with this. Charlie Gombin won.
Yep.
I think that sort of played into it a little bit. So I'm fine with the 1 week because he still did get him high. Will Heywood, been given 1 week for a really strange one. You know, when you see the off-ball body wax, that's what the rule was brought in for. This one was for someone kicking it. I can't remember.
It was George Wardlaw who had kicked it inside 50 from the mid. And as he was coming through, it was almost like a clip of the body just to make him feel it, really.
So when going to tackle, essentially, and then his hand's just out wide, and then he brings it into his stomach. It was graded as 1 week, intentional, medium impact, and body contact. I think this one, Carlton have challenged this one. I actually think this one is upheld because when you look at it, there is almost 2 actions with the swinging. It is something more like that rather than just his momentum and his hand outright. So I think the medium impact is actually upheld in this run rather than the low impact. The rule was changed where it's intentional and that body blow, it is automatically upgraded to medium, but there is still that element that it can be downgraded to low, which gets you off. I still think this one is upheld though, because you don't want to say like whacking someone in the gut like this, even if it's somewhat in play, isn't a football act. Like that's not something you just do every week. So I think this one has every room to be knocked out. The 2 most interesting ones for me though are ones that are actually cleared. And it's a Jake Rogers tackle on Christian Salem that was cleared. And this one to me is actually really bad. So there's sling tackles and there's dangerous tackles. There was a whole thing a couple of years ago about pinning the arm, and that was a big thing. You can't pin someone's arm. They have to have an arm free to be able to brace themselves. That was the big thing. That was the talking point because players needed to be able to protect themselves. These 2 incidents, neither of that happened. The players weren't able to protect themselves. So automatically that rings to me, there should be suspension here. Jake Rogers one. He grabs Christian Salem, pins his arm. Christian Salem's got the ball in the other arm. He's being dragged straight into the ground. There is no protection for the player at all. There is no element of, I'm the one tackling here. I need to be more careful in my duty of care. And that is the big thing to me. I think this should be graded as careless conduct, medium impact, and high contact because he's essentially driven his head into the ground without allowing Salem to protect himself from this clash. This is a big thing for the AFL because they have been more cautious with all these whacks that we just talked about multiple times. But they're still teetering on the edge of there are some things here that still need to be cleared up. If you want to go look at that Jake Rogers tackle, please do because I actually think it's a bit more dangerous than what's being led to believe. And then the Willem Drew one, this one is more of a sling tackle where the initial contact was on the shoulder and then his head sort of from the whiplash hits the ground. To me, there is still 2 actions here, and that is the big thing. It has always been, is there a second action? Because that is the issue. A one-action sling is more of the momentum. So the momentum of the tackle, the momentum of the play has resulted in the player going to ground in that sling action. But the 2 actions is when the tackler has initiated that sling motion, and that's where the danger arises. Once again, arm pinned, ball in the other hand, and now the head hits the ground. That is where the issue comes up. I think this should be graded as careless, medium, and body contact because the initial resulting was on the shoulder. But that still should be a week because there is no duty of care that he has provided because of that second action.
Mm. Do you believe there's any comparable actions that you can think of that have resulted in suspensions that you think these should be based off of?
So the Jake Rogers one to me feels somewhat similar to the Charlie Cameron one where he got off because of the good bloke clause. I think when you consider that and then nothing has changed outside of the parameters except for the good bloke factor, you then still have to grade that as a 1 week suspension when nothing else has changed.
And so the thing with this is that it's not like they're challenging anything. It's not like they need to challenge anything. The AFL themselves have come up with a no-week suspension. I presume a fine.
No fine.
No fine
nothing
at all.
For either
Literally
of them.
nothing. Okay, fair enough. It does have you question, what is the deal with the idea of protecting the player if when the player is not being protected while being tackled and you're not going to punish him in an occasional circumstance? I'm really interested as to the in-depth reasoning behind their decision because the assessment clearly wasn't enough, if anything, to give him any.
I'd love to be able to
give him a suspension. Sorry,
I'd love to be able to get an insight into what they think because I'd criticize them till God knows when.
You love your criticism of the MRO, don't you?
Absolutely, Michael Christian. I'm coming for your job tomorrow.
All right, let's go and have a look at what we've got now. with Gather Round. We've got Gather Round all happening in South Australia. We're going to go all around Adelaide and the nearby suburbs.
Good question
Barossa,
for you.
can't wait.
Questions without notice. Thoughts on Gather Round?
Thoughts on Gather Round in general?
Yeah. Craig Hutchinson was strong that it should be a 10 to 20 year contract. Obviously, after this year, the contract ends. And so there's thoughts of maybe move it somewhere else. Maybe it should be something we don't do anymore. Maybe it stays in Adelaide. What are your thoughts?
I like the way it is now. I think it still keeps a lot of people coming around. South Australians are clearly getting around the whole Gather Round thing. The governments in South Australia have been massive on continuing to build this thing out into something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it stays. I like where it's at. I do get the idea of wanting it to go elsewhere, give it a bit of a fresh coat of paint, if that makes sense. But that doesn't feel like a fresh coat of paint moving it to a different state. That feels like moving house. That's a different look. So I'm more interested to see whether they look at different venues in Adelaide in the future, because I think it could be a really, really cool idea getting different looks at Adelaide every time, because, at the moment, it's always been Norwood, Adelaide Oval, which, Adelaide will always stay around Adelaide Oval. It's their best ground, and Barossa.
Yeah.
Barossa's the interesting one because like an hour away from everything happening, and it's where you put all your teams that you don't really care about, let's be honest.
I think I really like it in Adelaide. I think it does sort of suit that culture, and because everything is so close to the city, I think it really works. But I want better fixtures. I don't want North Melbourne versus Brisbane 3 out of the 4 years. I don't want Melbourne versus Essendon in 3 out of the 4 years. I want some better fixtures.
Yeah.
That's all I ask for. I want a Essendon versus Hawthorn or something.
I want to watch
not
them get pumped.
Like that. But I want to see some different clashes, because it feels like every year it's similar games, and I feel like there could be slight changes.
Yeah, and that's fair. Let's move though to the games happening at Gather Round though. Adelaide versus Carlton is our Thursday matchup to kick off Gather Round. Of course, Adelaide was always going to get this spot. They're kind of the poster boys of Gather Round at the moment. Of course, when Port gets to a higher statue once they're playing well, I'd imagine they could take that Thursday night slot again to kick it open. But for the moment, they are playing Carlton in what is presumed to be an Adelaide win. Here's the thing, I can see Carlton making this competitive for some reason. I really could.
They do like competitive halves.
They do.
Well, actually, no, I take that back. They don't like competitive halves. They like really good halves and then really bad halves that make a competitive game.
Do you see Carlton putting a shock in the Adelaide fans?
A little bit.
I
could teeter towards that. I don't know if I will. I don't know if I have the kahunas for it.
Yeah, it's all about how clean Adelaide will be, whether Carlton without Jacob Wiedering or Harry Dean, presumably.
Oh, yeah,
their back line is pretty devastated at the moment. And they looked pretty lost in that last without Jacob Wiedering against North Melbourne. I'm going to go Adelaide. I may go by 30 with that thinking, but it's going to need to be Carlton dominate from the midfield and put up a big score to really give Adelaide a fright. Because the defense from Adelaide honestly hasn't been that bad.
No.
Defensively, we were worried about how it could look, but they've held up enough.
I think I agree. I think defensively that they've been fine. It's just a bit more of midfield and offensive issues, but it just feels like everything's teetering right on the edge for Carlton.
Yeah.
Which way does it break?
There's going to be a game where the floodgates open for them and they have a complete game, but that mental factor, maybe they just need a game where it's not close to kind of gap out these heartbreaking finishes. Move over. Had you guess for the Adelaide Carlton?
I think I'll go safe and I'll go Adelaide by 15.
Yep.
But there is an element of could Carlton really sort of take it up to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
You?
Yeah, I said Adelaide 30.
Yeah.
Friday night now, we got Collingwood Freo at Adelaide Oval as well. A very, very interesting match. It makes sense if there's no Port or Adelaide, you put Collingwood there. They're just the next one up. Or technically you could put West Coast, but Collingwood are going to be playing Fremantle. Fremantle for the second week in a row at Adelaide Oval. It's going to feel a bit like home now. I'd imagine they stayed there over the week.
Yeah, Saints get the same thing.
Yeah, very nice.
But we get the two Adelaide teams.
Have fun, man. That sounds awesome. To be fair, if you lose to Port, you've got no one to blame but yourself. Collingwood is actually coming in as the underdogs. I mean, I say that like it's a surprise, but Fremantle
Good team.
They're very good this year, and Collingwood always have a way to shock you. I'm thinking if Dacos is back, of course, that changes everything, as the Brisbane game evidently showed us. But where do Fremantle go with this Collingwood side? Because defensively, I don't think they're going to have more back. No, they won't have more back for a bit. But Jeremy Howe, you'd hope, will be back by then. I'm trying to think who else defensively. No problems with Braden Maynard. Where does Fremantle get stopped? And I just don't see anywhere where it happens. We've talked a little bit in the past about Collingwood's lack of offensive threat. I think Fremantle could take this comfortably, but it's obviously just about the ceiling and the talent of Collingwood potentially just doing enough to get Collingwood into this game. So I'm leaning Fremantle. I'm going to go Fremantle, but Collingwood just have ways, man. I'm going to go Fremantle by 13.
Yeah, this feels like a game where Collingwood somehow will just win.
Yeah.
Like, there's just those elements where regardless, okay, Moore's not out, that's even more pressure against us. And it just feels like a game where Fremantle maybe won't capitalise on all their opportunities. And then Collingwood just can pounce on that and really will just move the ball with freedom from their back half. However, Fremantle look different this year.
They do. They look really good.
2 goals down against Adelaide in Adelaide, and you're able to pull out that win. It's huge.
They've had a few late game fade outs. They have had a few. The Geelong one at GMHBA, and of course against Adelaide, but eventually coming back to win that. Yeah, if Collingwood are to win this, it's going to be from that fade out, I reckon.
I do have Fremantle by 24 though.
Yeah, easy. North versus Brisbane, the first one happening away from Adelaide Oval at Barossa. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the first game that North doesn't have the pressure to win in a couple of weeks now.
Probably every week so far this year.
Well, they've had the pressure to win, for every game so far. This is their first one where it's like, all right, you're done being the hunted. Let's now be the hunter. I'm wondering, do they have the capacity to test these guys? They don't have Sherry and
drew with them last year.
I know, but they had Sherry last year, and it was also at Tasmania. Weird things happen at Tasmania. I love Tasmania, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, speak Tasmanian, buddy.
Yeah, get ready to learn Tasmanian for all the people who get stolen by them. Either way, I think North Melbourne would love to test these guys. I mean, if they could somehow pull off a win, and that's really, really wishful thinking. This is a way too optimistic North fan happening here. If we somehow win this one, I won't know what to think. I won't know what to think at all. Harris Andrews comes back for this game. Perfect timing.
That teed us, mate. Brisbane by 35.
Yeah, I'm tipping Brisbane. Sometimes if North get beat, they start falling off the horse a little bit. I hope it's a different side this year. I hope they can catch that falling momentum a bit better this time around like they have so far. But yeah, Brisbane are a different side to what they've seen from the other teams so far. So I'm going to go Brisbane by 44.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Much, as I said, Brisbane by 35. They get it done quite comfortably.
I think so too. Essendon versus Melbourne. This is one of those games I had circled for Essendon to potentially pip Melbourne. But Melbourne, again, they capitalise off of mistakes, and there is not a team who has made more mistakes than Essendon this year.
I said that I won't tip Essendon for the rest of the year.
You please keep it going.
Had I not have said that, I would have tipped Essendon.
Yeah, I know. This is one that you think they'd have to at least put up a fight
the way I'm looking at it is you were very strong on West Coast second half against Gold Coast and how that led them into winning 2 games. Could we see the same thing with Essendon?
I mean, there's possibility. I mean, the idea that it gives them the fight and the hope to do it, but the optimism around West Coast is nowhere near what Essendon have.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean that in the other way. West Coast have a lot of optimism. Essendon do not. They're being led by people who have had kind of the leadership thrust upon them. They've had Zach Merritt, who's tried to leave the club. There's loads of different storylines. You'd hope that moments like that can spark something, but there's so many active things going against that spark that I struggle to see Essendon making something happen in this one, especially if Melbourne can get off to a quick start like their game plan allows it. Melbourne could get a bit lackadaisical and let this game get away after getting too excited from their win against Gold Coast. But I'm going to go Melbourne win this, and I'm going to go by 53. I think this could be a big Melbourne win.
That's big. I won't go that far. I'll go 19. But yeah, as I said, there is a sneaky hope in my thing for Essendon fans. They might catch a break for once.
Yep.
They might just.
Maybe. Sydney versus Gold Coast. This is a big one.
I would have said this has been an awesome game, but in Adelaide, this almost feels like it's going to get 20K max.
Yeah, I know.
If it was at the Adelaide Oval, and I don't think it is.
Yeah, so this is at Norwood.
This is at Norwood. This might get 2K.
No, there'll be people who are just travelling around, gather around that'll fill up seats. So Gold Coast will have more fans at this game than they do at the MCG.
How do you split this game? I genuinely don't know.
It's really tough.
I think I'm going Sydney because they're just the more experienced outfit. But
there's a bit of that makes you think about it. You think about the ground as well. Who works better in a bit more of a clustered scenario?
Yeah, it's a much smaller ground, and I feel like
if Gold Coast play the way that they are at their best, I reckon they'll pip Sydney because they're a scrappy team at their best.
I think, but like at the same time, I don't see Gold Coast losing 2 in a row, but I also think Sydney are like them but better.
Here's the thing, Gold Coast shouldn't have lost that Melbourne game.
No.
They were just really, really below their standard. Really below. So I think if Gold Coast come in with a changed outlook on how they play and a bit cleaner, bit more on the tougher side, then I think they take this. But Sydney, they looked damn good against the West Coast team that was on a bit of a high. I think Gold Coast still take this, but I hope it's close. I'm going to go Gold Coast by 3 points.
Wow, I was not expecting that. I think I'm going to give it to the experienced team in Sydney.
Yep.
And I'll go Sydney by 11. But a great game.
Hawthorn versus the Dogs at Adelaide Oval.
These are the type of games I want to see.
Yeah,
These
absolutely.
are the type of games I want to see.
The Dogs are in underdogs. Funny enough.
Really?
Hawthorn are the favourites for this.
Wow, one team's already won in Adelaide too.
I can tell you it's injuries. 100% it's injuries that's causing this. The way Hawthorn played as well, I mean, against the Geelong side, they really, really knuckled down and pulled that one out. I think this is going to go Hawks as well. I'm just interested to see how the Dogs will look in a bit of an undermanned state. Defensively, Hawthorn, if they put the right players on the right matchups, I'm honestly just thinking, who's Josh Battle playing on? Because he's going to have to play on either Sam Darcy or Aaron Norton.
You know who
and
it's
we know
gonna be,
Norton.
right?
We know Norton feasts if Darcy is being targeted.
You know it's Norton.
What's Norton?
Battle. He's going to get on Norton.
Yeah, Norton's going to have 10. You're going to have the best moment of your life.
Please.
I am going to go Hawthorn though. I'm going to go them by 10. I think the Dogs. We know the Dogs' talent is really good.
I've put my faith in the Dogs this year. I'm holding it.
Yeah.
I'm keeping it there. I'm putting the Dogs by 31. I just think if Bont and Richards are there, the Hawks midfield won't even be able to compete with them, regardless of the ruck.
Yeah, there's a good chance.
So I think that the Dogs midfield's that elite. Like they had Fraser and Sanders have almost 30 together, and they're like 5th and 6th best midfielders.
Yeah. All right, let's race past this one. Geelong versus West Coast, Norwood Oval. This is basically a GMHBA type of game.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a Geelong win. You'd hope West Coast put up a fight again, but Geelong experience against the West Coast inexperience on a ground that would suit Geelong more. I'm going Geelong by 60.
I'm going Geelong by 42. I just think they'll cut it back late, West Coast.
Yeah, fair enough. We've got GWS versus Richmond. This one could be really poor. This one could be really, really poor if both sides play down to each other.
GWS get their win.
I think it's really tough. Richmond have given me no signs of the team I thought I would see. Really haven't. The inexperienced have looked real inexperienced this year, and questions are arising at a rapid pace, but GWS have been really poor at times. Considering how poor the forward of Richmond has been going, I think that negates how poor I think GWS's defense could be. So I'm going to say the forwards' experience at GWS helps them take this one by 22.
I like it. I'll go by 23.
And
Giants by 23.
Port Adelaide versus St Kilda.
We have to win this. Is that fair to say?
I think that's pretty fair to say. This is the pre-Shanghai game matchup.
Let's run it back, baby.
Well,
Put this one in New Zealand, like what we did with
you
Carlton.
and Port Adelaide keep getting yourselves put into these scenarios.
It's shocking. I'm over it. Let's just go Saints by 13.
Yeah.
I just want to get it over and done. I don't want to talk about this game.
Yeah, all right.
I don't want to
Saints
talk about
Saints by 13.
Yep, fair enough.
All right, that's where we're going to end today's episode. It's been great fun once again, but if you've enjoyed what you saw, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new here on YouTube. If you're following us on Spotify or listening on Spotify, be sure to follow us there, rate us 5 stars, and follow us on all our socials you can see back there as well. It'll be great to see you there too. But appreciate you all tuning in. Be sure to join the tipping comp as well. I will see you all next week for another video. Cheers, guys.